Hi, my name is Annie Anderson, and I am the Director of Student Success and Retention at Miles Community College. So I work out of the Learning Center, and the Learning Center is a place where all of our students come for tutoring help, extra support services, disability support services, any type of accommodations that are going on. We do academic probation, academic suspension students, the GRIP program, anything we can do to help students academically. I also teach education classes here at MCC. But what I see most in my job is people having, feel like they're needing accommodations because of testing anxiety. So when we were asked to do a research paper for this class, I chose test anxiety and what can we do as a community college to help out? Like what can we do as a system to combat some of these needs? I mean, oftentimes we think, oh, you just didn't study enough, you didn't study hard enough, or maybe, you know, if you just practice more, it wouldn't be this way. But it's not quite like that. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what testing anxiety is and then what we can do as a community college to help. So at our community college, there's a nursing program, and our nursing program is it's very tough to get in and it's tough to stay in. It's an application process, and we have people like 120 applicants and only like less than 30 make it in. And so once they're in, they have to have a B or above average to stay in the program. So it's pretty competitive. We have students all over the state coming into that. So if you can about imagine the stress that those students are under after every single test, it's unimaginable. So a lot of times when I have people talking about testing anxiety, mine is nursing students that I'm trying to like talk off the cliff, like it's going to be okay. But you know, one test is one thing, but if you're feeling that panic every single time you're taking a test, it's very hard to come back. So what is test anxiety? So it's a combination of both physical and emotional symptoms and reactions that interfere with your ability to perform well on a test. And because our society, and especially school, is so data driven, that sometimes we look at the outcomes of those tests as what we actually know. I mean, we all know the difference. We know that it's not that way at all in real life, but for programs such as this, I understand the need for it. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. So that's where we are. And so, like, when I'm meeting with students and they're sitting across from me on the desk, my heart just breaks for them because they are literally in tears saying, I tried so hard, I worked so hard, I studied so much, and I came to the test and it just left. Like nothing is there. So there has to be some type of thing that we can do as a campus to help out. So first of all, you have to think about before we can think about what programs we need, we have to think about what does anxiety, which is basically test anxiety, have on academic achievement. Well, number one I have up there is lack of personal confidence. That's kind of a no-brainer, of course, because we're going into test after test after test, knowing that these feelings are going to pop up. If anybody's ever had a panic attack before, you understand like how encompassing that is. It takes over your body and your mind, and you literally cannot think straight. And what triggers those anxiety attacks or panic attacks is it could be one thing like we're not confident enough in our test-taking ability. Number two says fearful and unrealistic projection into the future occupational roles. That's kind of what I'm talking about our nursing students, is thinking if I don't pass this test, I can't be a nurse. That's not 100% true, but if they do flunk or fail a test, it is going to be hard to kind of make up for that deficit. So they're thinking, if I don't get this right, I don't get to do what I want to do in my life. Number three, emotional instability. So anxiety brings on, a flood of emotions, and a lot of them are fearful emotions or being judged emotions. And if you're unstable about all of that, it doesn't make a good testing environment at all. So if you kind of look through numbers 1 through 6, it's kind of the idea, and this is from Cassidy. They did a research in 2000 and went through like what does anxiety directly relate to academic achievement, and you can see how some of these are just you may think that they're a no-brainer, but until we actually have proof that like several people are going through all these things at the same time, that's kind of where we lay. What I see is mainly number 5. is the dependence on teachers and others. It's because once we have that zero confidence of going into a test and we're thinking there's such a high pressure stake of what's going on, whether I can be a nurse or can't be a nurse, what we see is these students they lost their own confidence in knowing something, so it's completely like, I need help, I need help, I need help, I need a tutor, I need them to read it over with me, and it's constantly second guessing themselves when they're probably right the first time. So if you can imagine, it's a whole ball of emotions going into these testing sessions that are so data driven that they need to get a good grade. It really is a high stress, high stakes issue. And if it's something you've been dealing with your whole life, it just makes it, sorry, that was my phone. It just makes it compound because it's just going to keep going and going and going. All right, so what can we do to help? And so there's a different research out there saying there's three main things that I found for what community colleges can do to help. The first one is a living learning community. So the idea that we group students in the res halls or the dorms with like-minded students. So if anybody's going into the same ag business, or if they're all going into education, if they're all going into nursing, they have those groups where they make connections and ties. That's one way to look at living learning communities. Another way is to bring the faculty into the res halls, where they will talk about, like, hey, this is who I am, this is what I teach, what can I do to help you out? And if we know the instructors on a personal level and they're willing to come over to the res halls and do like a study skills workshop, or just getting to know them, or a little bit more about their careers, or like what they're going into, it could alleviate some of that stress when it comes coming into that program. Another one is the study skill workshops. And the study skill workshops I have taken from this book right here. It's called Make It Stick. I don't know if anybody's ever read this book, but it's fantastic. This book is, it's called The Science of Successful Learning, and I use the strategies in this book all the time with the students that come into the Learning Center or students that I have in my classrooms. It really is one of those ones that's very practical things. It's like, rereading and rereading and rereading information isn't going to make you remember it. It's that retrieval of information that's going to help you remember. So if we're helping our students to study by rereading the notes or rereading the chapter, are we really helping them out? Or we do self-quizzing and we have retrieval activities. So that is what's going to be useful. It goes even into details as like, how do we highlight in our books? Like, what kind of notes can we take? And all things that are going to be not study longer or harder, but just study better. Instead of rereading 1,000 times over, we're going to be working on retrieval, which makes sense. The last one I have on my slide here is student support services, and this is going to be like the TRIO grants. I don't know if any of you have that on your campus, but TRIO is student support services through the government. We do not have one here at MCC. We're planning on applying the next time it comes about. And what they do is they would take the low-income, first-generation, anybody that has remedial classes, and put them in kind of a cohort together, like all these different programming to help out. It's like added support. So it's going to college with somebody who actually knows how college works, because so often our first-generation students really don't know how this works, and it's a whole different land. I mean, it's like you're going into a foreign country sometimes with a different language, and learning how everything works is very confusing if you don't have that support system. There is also other services about emotional learning, like and encompassing the whole person. When we talk about like meditation and yoga and something more for the emotional needs of the students, that is definitely like a mindfulness study, and that will also work too. We don't have that either here at MCC, but I was thinking as I was reading it, that would probably be very helpful. Help for the staff too. We need a little mindfulness in our days. So those are the three things that I found that could be implemented on community college campuses that would help test anxiety, because we are working with personal communications and personal relationships, which would be the living learning communities, study skill workshops that are not just telling them to read over and over again, and then student support services such as TRIO or mindfulness learning that might be outside of their box. Now, what are we doing inside the classroom? So if you're struggling for a test taking a test, some things that the instructors could be not knowledgeable of to be able to help those students a little bit better. So on the left-hand side, I have instructor is cognizant of the student's emotional needs, and that's basically we're going to be looking at students as a whole and not just a group of mindless, seeless faces in the crowd. We're going to be supporting the whole person, looking at things that should focus on the self-efficacy and test-taking attitudes of the class. So we have talked about this several different times on our campus, like how instructors would come into the class thinking, okay, this is how I set up my class. This is how you can be successful in my class. So it's not a guess. I'm not like testing you. It's not like a big game. Like if you want to be successful in my class, this is what you do. This is what my tests look like. This is how we give our tests. This is how you take a test. And by supporting that whole person instead of just like assuming that they know how to do this, just tell them. And so it's been very successful here at MCC, and so our instructors each give different kinds of tests, of course, but it has been successful. Now the nursing program is a different story because they do look at the emotional needs of their students because it's such a small program and it's very supportive of the whole person. And they do self-efficacy and they do test-taking attitudes and they do practice tests, but that still doesn't take away the pressure of those tests. So on the right-hand side, I've got things that we could just be doing as a campus of whole. Both students and teachers should have a proactive attitude, meaning that we can promote some of those interactions and attitudes, resilience characteristics, overcoming. I know our Student Senate does a lot, and Student Senate and our RAs on campus do a lot of character building type training throughout the semester. So. And I also think that if we as instructors really focus on the self-esteem and the locus of control of our students and promoting good growth mindset attitudes towards this, it could help. It's not just us versus them, it's all of us together. We're all working on this together. So basically the whole idea of my research was I want to be helping all students succeed. All students that walk into the Learning Center, I want them to be able to feel a connection, to feel that they are supported, to feel that they have the tools they need to graduate, to be successful. And I think that we can do that as a community college if we kind of imply that what we're doing on our res halls, what we're doing for our student support services, and what we're doing for our instructors can kind of help this. Now, once I got into some of these topics, it's very clear I could have done an entire paper on just one of these topics, like living learning communities. That could have been a whole paper on itself, or, TRIO, or emotional mindsets, or you could do it was just so much. And so I feel like the downfall of this paper is that it was a little broad. I tried making it more concise earlier, and there was just so much. So I hope this was helpful for you. I think if I was ever going to rewrite this paper in another class, or if it was going to be used for another purpose, I definitely would I would probably narrow it down because there is just so much. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. Thanks for being a part of this class. I really have enjoyed it. Thanks.